In 1914, enemies laid down their rifles and sang carols together. They shared chocolate and cigarettes, and by dawn broke out football matches across no man's land. It was the Christmas Truce, an unofficial 4-hour pause in the violence of World War I. But how did it happen? And why did the singing stop when the sun came up? It's me. This is Secret History Files. World War I had been raging for 3 years, a stalemate of trench warfare with neither side able to defeat the other. By 1914, the Western Front had become a graveyard of mangled bodies and broken dreams. Soldiers were exhausted and disillusioned. Christmas was always a difficult holiday for those fighting far from home, but that year, commanders on both sides ordered the troops to hold extra rations for Christmas Day. Perhaps they hoped a full belly would make their men more likely to follow orders. Whatever the reason, the result was a plentiful supply of food and drink across the trenches. As darkness fell on Christmas Eve, something remarkable happened. German and British soldiers began to crawl out of their trenches, each man carrying a candle. They approached the barbed wire that separated them, not as enemies, but as fellow human beings. Soon, entire platoons were strolling through no man's land, some unarmed, some still clutching their rifles. A British soldier named Wilfred Owen recorded the scene in a poem. Trench warfare, weary, was forgotten. All through the front, from Arras to the North Sea, men living close together sang carols by the light of candles. The Germans had begun the Christmas truce, singing Stille Nacht, Heilige Nacht, or Silent Night, Holy Night, while lighting candles on a large Christmas tree they had erected in no man's land. The British responded by singing O Holy Night, and soon both sides were performing carols in a mix of English and German. Other soldiers emerged from their trenches bearing gifts: chocolate, cigarettes, a bottle of beer. Soon, impromptu feasts were taking place all along the Western Front. One British soldier recalled a German offering him sausage and a hot drink. We sat down on a log together and made the most of it. We sang and talked and were very friendly. In fact, we had a glorious time. At some point during the evening, a group of British soldiers ventured into no man's land and planted a small tree near the German trenches. Then they returned to their lines, leaving the tree and a pile of presents beneath it. When the Germans saw this, they decided to reciprocate. An account published in the London Gazette described the scene. Our chaps, seeing this at once, got busy and decorated the tree which was standing in the German lines, and in the evening they presented a small Christmas tree to the enemy, which was received by a party of Germans who came out to meet them. As the night wore on, the soldiers grew bolder. In some places they shook hands across the barbed wire. In others, they engaged in what one British soldier called a friendly game of football. According to Wilfred Owen, then through the mud, so swiftly they would kick a battered ball. It was the first Christmas Day of 1915, and the Western Front had fallen silent. But the truce didn't last long. At 6 a.m., commanders on both sides sent out patrols to stop the fraternization. A French newspaper later reported that German and British officers had met in the middle to put an end to the festivities. They said they could not allow such a thing to happen again, that it would be punished severely if it happened again. With that, the soldiers returned to their trenches, and the footballs came out again. Bullets, according to one eyewitness. That night, the boys slept in their lines, and the officers slept in the open. Some of the officers have done this every night since, so we can tell you it is not very comfortable. The next day, fighting resumed, and in the days that followed, dozens of soldiers were executed for fraternization. The Christmas truce became a secret, one that only the veterans knew about. Over the years, A few accounts appeared in newspapers and magazines, but for the most part, the story remained hidden until 1982, when historian Paul Fussell published a book called The Great War and Modern Memory. In it, he told the story of the Christmas Truce and suggested there may have been other unofficial truces throughout history. I think it is a terribly important part of the story that has been ignored because it shows, even in the grimmest of wars, love for life flickers. For more Secret History Files, subscribe and join us next time for the Battle of the Sexes. Until then, remember, some historical tales are best left untold.